हेलो सर, स्टार्ट करें। सर स्टार्ट करें। हेलो
हाँ जी, हाँ,
सर,
स्टार्ट करिए।
सर स्टार्ट करें।
करिए करिए।
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू। Hello, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to today's session on handling GST litigations. Thank you for joining GST today's webinar. As you know, GST Corner is a leading consultancy firm in GST and serving professionals and taxpayers across India. I would like to tell you one thing, that if any participants is having any questions in between the webinar, please text us in Zoom chat box. We will attend all your questions at the end of the presentations. Now, without adding further, I would like to introduce our today's speaker, Sir Advocate Vinay Ji Sharaf sir. As you everyone know that Vinay sir is very keen in taking GST issues. Vinay sir is having a degree in LLB, FCA, AICWA, ACS, Advanced Diploma in Management Accounting from SEMA, London. Is practicing as an advocate at various high courts and Supreme Court of India, specializing in area constitutional matters, direct and indirect taxation. Economic offense laws like black money, money laundering, Benami Property Act, criminal law relating to tax and economic offenses, animal welfare, etc. Now I am handing over to the Vinay sir for enlightening us for his knowledge.
Yeah, 1 second. Just give me a moment. Yes, very good afternoon to all of you. The broad topic of the today is how to handle the GST litigation. So, you see, handling litigation has various facets, and which I would say at the initial stage, the litigation which emerges is either it is out of the departmental audit or by someone to any authorized person of the SAC or through search and seizure. So handling of the litigation encompasses all these aspects, and after you see one goes through these processes of either attending to the summon or search and seizure or inspection or handling of the audit. Thereafter, there can be an inquiry in form of a informal letter prior to the issue of formal so-called notice. There may be it is also possible that there may be a please look into it. Somebody is doing this mischief of writing or scribbling on the. Nayanji, are you there?
Yes sir.
हाँ, ये जो देखिए स्क्रिबलिंग जो हो रहा है अभी हुआ।
हाँ सर, कर दिया, उसे क्लियर करा अभी।
हाँ, ये इसको क्लोज ही करवा दीजिए ना।
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल।
पार्टिसिपेंट एज इनेबल्ड क्लोज्ड कैप्शनिंग और पता नहीं क्या है। ठीक है, देख लीजिए इसको। So you see, as I was discussing, so a litigation may initiate out of any of these proceedings. Now, the first thing is that when and where do the role of professional start? First thing is that a chartered accountant or advocate may assist his client in the course of departmental audit. They may guide him with respect to the manner in which the documents which are required by the team of audit from the department, to assist them, to interact with them, or to produce the document in a particular format which the audit team requires, and also to give suitable legal explanation of whatever queries they ask, respond to the audit, draft audit report, respond to the final audit report. So in all these processes, which emanates from section 65, section 65 of the GST Act, in all of these processes, a professional may assist and appropriately respond to the queries of the department. But what about the participation of a professional in the course of a summons proceeding or the search and seizure proceeding? Because these are the preliminary 3 steps which emanates into so-cause notice. So-cause notice may culminate into a order. That order may culminate, then one may choose to go in appeal before the appellate authority. If you don't succeed in your appeal before the appellate authority, then one may choose to go before the tribunal, which is not yet constituted. So if the tribunal is not constituted, then presently the only recourse is to go to the High Court in form of a writ petition. So these are the preliminary steps or the steps to handle the litigation. But the first steps are handling of either audit proceeding, handling of summons proceeding, or handling of search and seizure. As about the handling of the audit proceeding, a professional chartered accountant or a company secretary or a cost accountant or a advocate may assist his client. But as far as the summons proceeding is concerned, the question arises whether there are 2 aspects. One is that suppose the director of the company is summoned by a proper officer. It may be a assistant commissioner, superintendent, joint commissioner, commissioner, whatever may be the designation of the authority. It may be a investigation authority, that is DGGI, or it may be the state investigation department. So the question arises in the mind is whether on behalf of the director or any official of the company, can a chartered accountant or an advocate go and represent his client? Number 2 question is, suppose the chartered accountant or the auditor himself goes to attend the office of the commissioner or joint commissioner or the proper officer of the GST authority, whether he can accompany the client and assist his client while his statement is recorded. I would like to have the participation of all the participants, and I want their response on this particular issue, whether number 1. So I am asking the first question, whether on behalf of the SAC, a professional can attend a summons proceeding or a summons hearing instead of his client. Please give your response in the chat box. Nayanji, is the chat box open for the participants to respond?
Yes, sir. Chat box is open for the participants.
Okay.
Are you
Participants, I request you to participate
sir,
and
most of the
interact.
participants answer with no, sir.
Okay, but I can't see any message. You please open it for me to be able to see what response
sir,
they are giving, because I can't see.
Are you able to see now, sir, in chat box?
I don't know. As of now, though, I can't see any message. Hello? I don't know.
Are you able to see the group chat now?
No, I can't see. A lot of people are leaving. I mean, admin has left.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, I would like to have a interaction with the participants, but somehow or other, I think it is not enabled. Anyway, so I go on. If you can open, it would be helpful for me. But if there is some technical glitch, yeah, a massive देख पा रहा हूँ. I can respond to GST corner. I think somehow or other this has to be. I mean, something needs to be done about this. Okay, I proceed further. ये फर्दर देखिए, इसमें सब स्क्रिबलिंग हो रहा है. प्लीज लुक इनटू दिस. हेलो.
हेलो.
हाँ, ये जो स्क्रिबलिंग हो रहा है इसको थोड़ा देखिए ना.
यस सर, यस सर.
Okay, so what I was trying to discuss is whether a professional can attend a summon proceeding on behalf of any of the official who is called to attend. The answer is no. The professionals are not supposed to attend a summon proceeding, because the objective of the summon proceeding is to unearth the fact. It is a stage of inquiry where the preliminary information or the department is trying to unearth the truth with respect to any of the allegation or with respect to any of the suspicion of evasion of tax. So the objective of the summon, you see, it is very evident from section 70 itself, which says that the proper officer shall have the power to summon any person whose attendance he considers necessary, either to give evidence or to produce a document or any other thing in any inquiry in any manner. So a summon proceeding can be issued to any person. Suppose the inquiry with respect to A Limited is going on. Now, in the course of that inquiry, if the officer considers it necessary to summon anybody, now that any person may be your supplier, any person may be your customer, any person may be a third party in whose possession some document is there and which the concerned officer considers it necessary to call him to give evidence, to give a statement, or to produce the document. So anybody can be called. He may not be necessarily a official of the company, but whosoever is called in his individual capacity, he has to appear in his individual capacity on his own. He cannot hand over the baton or the task of such appearance to anybody else on his behalf. So that is point number one. So a professional cannot appear in a summon, but it might so happen that a professional himself is summoned. So suppose a chartered accountant or a company secretary or a advocate even is summoned in the course of any inquiry under the GST Act, then that CA or a company secretary or an advocate or whosoever professional may be, he will have to attend in his individual capacity. So the role of a professional in that case is that of a witness and not that of a professional. He is not going there to give any sort of a advice or any task to be done on behalf of the client. Rather, he will go in his personal capacity. And if he is in a possession of any document or any evidence in any form, which needs to be produced and which is called by the concerned GST officer, then he is bound to do so. He will have to produce that. He cannot say that I have a client confidentiality, so I will not produce the document. So that is the thing. Now, another aspect is that the question, second number question is whether any professional can accompany a chartered accountant. A company, a advocate or a chartered accountant or any other professional can accompany his professional. So what is your view? Participants, I want your opinion. Now I can see the chat box.
Sir, are you able to see the chat box?
Now I can see. Okay, Joji Bose is saying yes. Manoj Jain is saying no. Suma saying no. Okay, let me give my view. Participants, be energetic and participate wholeheartedly. Then only you will get the benefit of this session. So the correct answer is that a professional cannot be party to the proceeding. That is, he cannot participate in the inquiry, but he may be permitted to view the proceeding going on from a distance where he can see what is going on, but he cannot hear, nor he can advise his client about how to give answer to whatever is being asked. So these are the two aspects. Secondly, there are some principles which has emerged over a period of time through circulars and the judgments, which says that someone one second, just give me a moment.
Hello. So all participants, please wait for a moment. Sir will be joined soon.
I'm extremely sorry for this interruption. So, as I was saying, that there are some well-established principles which has emerged over a period of time with respect to issuance of the summon. One thing is that there are circulars which have been issued in the erstwhile era, that is the Central Excise and Service Tax era, as well as in the GST era, which says that summon should be a measure of the last resort, because the language of the summon is such that it causes a lot of harassment and embarrassment and mental stress to the receiver. So therefore, it should not be generally issued. If it is possible that by calling for the documents which are required, or by over a telephone call, the person can be asked to come and visit the office, then that should be preferred over the issue of a formal summon under section 70. Secondly, the summon should not be repeatedly issued. As far as practicable, the number of appearances should be small. Thirdly, summons should not generally be issued to the senior management, that is the CEO, CFO, or the directors, unless absolutely necessary. The summons should be issued to such a person who is handling the affair of the GST, and not to anybody and everybody. Then summons should not be issued in a unusual time. It should be given in office hours, and the requirement to be present should not be throughout the day, which causes harassment to the assessee. It should be for a limited duration, the period for which his attendance is necessary to record a statement. Now, another aspect is that it so happens sometimes that the client in his fear does not attend to the summon. So let me tell you that these are all judicial proceedings, and section 70 very clearly says that any inquiry shall be deemed to be a judicial proceeding within the meaning of section 180, 193 and 228 of the Indian Penal Code. So therefore, not only one should attend to the summon, but also one should truthfully give whatever information or document or information is asked for. And if you don't attend to the summon and repeatedly seek adjournment, then it might so happen that the proceeding under the Indian Penal Code is initiated and one might be arrested also. So it is very much essential that one should attend to the summon as and when one person, anybody is called to attend. Now, there are various judgments in the context of the summon. One aspect is that how much is the evidentiary value of the statement recorded in the course of a summon. Because it might so happen that sometime a statement is forcefully taken and it is not voluntary. So whether it has the same protection under the Indian Evidence Act, which has, if you give a statement before the police officer. So as you all know that if a statement is given by given before a police officer and it is recorded in front of a police officer, then it has no evidentiary value. So the question arises is whether the statement given before the GST officer also has the same level of protection under the Indian Evidence Act, which a statement has if it is given to a police officer. So the answer is clearly no, because this kind of matter in the context of Central Excise traveled up to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that the statement given before the GST authority is not a statement given to the police officer. So therefore, it has a evidentiary value. But there are several judgments which has evolved over the period of time, which says that the statement taken by the officer cannot be the sole basis to assess the tax. So there must be something more. There must be some corroborative evidence of whatever statement is taken by the concerned GST officer. Secondly, if any forceful statement is taken by a GST officer, then one should immediately do a retraction of the statement in a stamped paper, get it notarized, and send it to the concerned officer who took the statement. Because it is very much essential that the retraction is done as soon as possible before the same officer who forcefully has taken the statement of your client. So this is also something very, very important, which you all must know. So do you have any question relating to the summon? Then you can tell me. Okay, let us proceed further. We will do the question answer session after we complete the session. So the next issue which I wish to discuss is how to handle the so-called notice and appeals. So first thing is handling of the so-called notice. So for handling of the so-called notice, first of all, it is very much essential that you ascertain the true statement of affair, the facts of a case. And in order to do that, it is essential that first of all, you obtain the copy of the so-called notice along with all the documents which has been relied upon by the department while issuing the so-called notice. Sometime I've seen that the client either only sends the copy of the so-called notice without relied upon document, or it might also so happen that the department has issued the so-called notice without giving or annexing the relied upon documents along with the so-called notice. So if the so-called notice has been issued without the relying upon document, then the first thing which you should do is that you should ask your client to write a letter to the department to give a copy of all the relied upon documents for enabling the effective defense of all the allegations which are made in the so-called notice. So this is the first point. Secondly, before you reply to the so-called notice, you should assess the quality of the so-called notice. By quality of the so-called, what I mean to say is whether it is complete in all respect, whether it is intelligible, whether the allegations which are made are specific, whether the allegations are made in such a way and all the relied upon documents are there so that you know what is the case against you, and you can defend yourself only if you know what is the allegation against you. It cannot be that the department in a cursory manner makes some unintelligible or vague allegations and immediately makes a table of the computation of the amount of tax which they allege to be evaded. And if the notice is issued in such a manner, then I think it would be appropriate if such a so-called notice is taken to the High Court in form of a writ petition and get quashed. Because if a so-called notice is not legible or it is vague, the allegations are not specific, one cannot make a head and tail out of it, then it would be most appropriate if you take such a notice to the High Court and get it quashed. So one thing is very important, that as soon as you lay your hands on the so cause notice, you must first try to see whether it is worthy of being replied or not, whether it should be replied or not, or whether you should get it quashed from the High Court itself. There is another scenario also where one can approach the High Court and get it quashed from the High Court. Now, what is that other scenario? When the allegation in the notice are so strongly worded. So first thing is that the so cause notice is not properly worded. It is incomplete. The allegations are vague. Then also you can approach the High Court. But if the allegations are so strongly worded, the allegations are in such a manner that from the language of the so cause notice, it appears that the authority concerned has already made up his mind, and it would be futile to give a reply to the so cause notice, because the so cause notice has not been issued with an open mind. So if that is the scenario, then also you can approach the High Court and get it quashed. So cause notice should be a balanced cause notice where the authority has not made up his mind, but at the same time, it should not be so shallow that you cannot decipher as to what is the allegation against you. So these are the first preliminary step when you receive the so cause notice. And also, if the so cause notice, along with the so cause notice, relied upon documents are not given, and despite your repeated request, if the relied upon documents are not supplied to you, then also you can approach the High Court and seek the direction of the High Court concerned to supply you all the relied upon documents, so that you are in a position to effectively build up and defend your case. Secondly, it is also important to record the date of the receipt of the so cause notice, because there is a time period limitation in the section 73 as well as section 74. Section 73 applies when there is no allegation of the fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of fact. So what are those cases? So if the notice is issued under section 73, then the limitation period is prescribed in section 10, subsection 10 of section 73, which says that the proper officer shall issue an order under section 9 within 3 years from the due date of the furnishing of the annual return for the financial year. So effectively, the so cause notice, if it is issued within section 73 without allegation of willful misstatement or suppression of fact or element of fraud, then it has to be issued within 3 years, 11 months. Because now the annual return can be filed within a period of November to November of the financial year to which the within November following the financial year. So if it is a so cause notice relating to 17, then the so cause notice can be issued within November 2021 under section 73. It is altogether different matter that for the 17-18 or 16-17, this normal period of limitation has been extended by way of a notification. So that is another thing, but normally this is the period which has to be followed. Secondly, under section 74, the so cause notice can be issued within 5 years from the due date of furnishing of the annual return. So effectively it is 5 years, and 11 months of the due date of furnishing of the 5 year, 11 month of the end of a financial year. So beyond that, even if there is an allegation of fraud, the so-called notice is invalid as time barred and without jurisdiction, and such a so-called notice is invalid. So this is also a very important point whenever you receive the so-called notice, to check whether the so-called notice has been issued within the prescribed period of limitation, and if the limitation period has expired, then the concerned officer has no jurisdiction over you to issue a so-called notice to you, and such a notice also can be directly quashed by the High Court without entering into the merits of the case. Then it is also essential to obtain all the correspondences relating to the prior to the issue of the so-called notice. So if suppose it is out of the audit proceeding, then you should seek all the correspondences which has happened in the course of the audit proceedings. If it is as a result of the summon proceeding, then all the documents which has been submitted or the notices which has been received in respect of the summon proceeding. If it is out of search seizure, then all the documents which has been submitted or the details which has been sought in course of the search and seizure of operation. So after gathering of the fact, you must check as to what is the allegation and respond to only that. Sometimes it so happens that in the over eagerness, one supplies more details and more information than what is sought for. Now I will try to show you one draft reply to a so-called notice. Just give me a moment. Am I not audible? Somebody is saying I am not audible. Am I audible? Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir, you are audible, sir.
No, somebody wrote in the chat box that I'm not audible.
No, you are audible.
Anyway, can you see the reply to the so-called notice on your screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, you see, whenever you receive the so-called notice, first of all, in the first paragraph, we state as to the what is the basic allegation as to what is the amount of tax, interest, and penalty which has been levied under which section. Then what we do is to reproduce the allegation of the department against us, because you see the so-called notice reply should be a compact in the sense that on the reading of the so-called notice, anybody who is reading the so-called notice should be able to not only figure out as to what is your response, but they should be able to figure out as to what is the background or what are the allegations against you. So first of all, we state in our own words, not necessarily it should be a word by word verbatim copy of what all allegations have been leveled against us, but we need to reproduce the allegation in a concise form so that anybody who is reading your reply is able to understand as to what is the background or what is your response to what is the allegation against you, to enable him to appreciate your response. Then before we go into the legal propositions which we wish to rely upon, first of all, if there are factual aspects which needs to be dealt with, then first of all, we deal with the factual aspects of the allegation. And in the factual allegation, it is not that we always have to contradict what has been alleged. It might so happen that they are seeking some details, or their own understanding of a fact is in a particular manner, but we want to rebut whatever has been alleged to you against us by way of a documentary evidence. So we annex that of documentary evidence, we substantiate whatever factual aspect we do not agree, and we respond to that factual part of the allegation. Then we deal with the legal submission. So whatever be the legal proposition which we wish to rely upon, one by one, first of all, we deal with the relevant section or the provision of the law, our own interpretation of that particular provision. It may be that a particular allegation has been leveled against you on the basis of a particular interpretation of a particular section, and in your opinion, the interpretation is different. So first of all, you give your own interpretation of a particular legal proposition, and then you refer to the judgments you wish to rely upon in support of your proposition of law. So it should not be that we just straight away jump to the reliance upon a particular judgment. First of all, in our own language, we should interpret the particular provision of the law. Only then we refer to the relevant judgments we wish to rely upon in response to the notice. Then suppose you don't wish to go to the High Court, but the so-called notice is without jurisdiction. Then jurisdictional aspect or the lack of the jurisdiction of a so-called notice should also be dealt with in your reply. Then we deal with the aspect of the demand of the interest, penalty, and if we suppose there is a, if you feel that the period of limitation has expired, then that aspect also you deal with in your reply if you have not gone to the High Court. So after dealing with all the aspect, interest, penalty, and the jurisdictional aspect, the period of limitation aspect, the factual aspect, the legal proposition, the judgment which you rely upon, then in the concluding paragraph, you make a prayer as to you request the concerned authority to drop the proceeding initiated against you, to drop the demand of the interest, to state that there is no case for invocation of the extended period of limitation or normal period of limitation, and then you request the concerned authority to drop the entire proceeding and the so-called notice. And then you should also state whether you wish to be given an opportunity of hearing, and also that a perfunctory manner, you write a paragraph that you seek or crave leave to add, alter, amend, or modify any of the grounds which you have taken. So, first of all the facts which you wish to rely upon should be included in the reply to the so-called notice, because ordinarily it may so happen that in the appellate stage, production of evidence, additional evidence is barred unless you show the sufficient justification for not being able to produce those documents before the concerned adjudicating authority. So it is very much essential that we produce all the documents. Secondly, if there is any legal proposition of the law which has not been taken in your reply, then any additional ground can be taken in the appellate stage also, as well as in the course of the hearing. So one must remember that one should be very careful with respect to presentation of the fact, because if you omit to include any necessary document in reply to the so-called notice, then it may be fatal to your case later on. Okay. Now, with respect to the appeal also, you see, again, we follow the same format that if the suppose you have been approached by the concerned client at the stage of the so-called notice after the order has been passed, and you have been asked to draft an appeal, then also you carefully examine whether the order which has been passed against you is without jurisdiction, it is outside the limitation period, whether it is vague, whether the so-called notice was vague, whether the order is a non-speaking order, whether the principle of natural justice has been followed while passing the order. Principle of natural justice means that the opportunity of hearing has been given. Whatever reply you have given, they have been considered in the passing of the order. Whatever judgments you have relied upon, they have been considered. And if any of these aspects are missing, then that such an order which is bereft of the principle of natural justice or in violation of the jurisdiction can also be directly be approached before the writ court and get quashed. Now, one of the question which people usually ask is what happens if suppose the writ petition is not disposed of within the statutory period of limitation and that writ petition is dismissed, then what happens? Whether my case is gone forever? The answer is no. So whatever time you spend after filing of the writ till the matter is disposed of, that period is excluded from the period of limitation. So if you feel that the order should be challenged before the writ court, then one must take that recourse, because you see, sometimes the demand is so frivolous that even payment of the 10% of the disputed amount becomes very difficult for the client. And if that be the case, then one must take a chance to approach the High Court. Because now, even if the tribunal starts functioning, the cost of going to the tribunal is 20% more tax. So 10% plus 20%, that is 30% of the disputed amount, is a huge amount. And it might so happen that a SSE may not be in a position to make pre-deposit of such a huge amount. And in that case, or in such a scenario, we will have to explore the opportunity of exploring or approaching the writ court, provided the conditions for approaching the writ court are satisfied. That is, there is a violation of the natural justice, there is the error of jurisdiction, or suppose the situation is such that the only remedy is by way of approach to the writ court. For example, nowadays a lot of so-called notices are issued whereby the input tax credit is required to be reversed for non-payment of input tax credit by the supplier. So if that be the case, then the only remedy is to approach the writ court, because it is only the writ court which can give the relief by way of challenge to the constitutional validity of section 16 subsection 2 clause C. There are other type of litigation also whereby sometimes the demand is made because of the cancellation of the supplier's registration. In such a scenario also, one can directly approach the writ court and get such a demand quashed. Then there are presently dispute relating to section 16 subsection 4, whereby if there has been delay in filing of the return beyond the prescribed period of limitation under section 16 subsection 4, then also the demand under section 16(4) is made and the client is asked to deposit the tax. Now, while preparing the reply also, one should follow the same template. That is what I discussed with respect to the reply, that you first deal with the factual aspect, then you go to the legal proposition and deal with each and every legal point or the factual point which has been made against you in the order in original. Now, there are some do's and don'ts, which I believe one must always follow, is that there should not be a cut and paste of the previous petition or the appeal. It is always better that you make a fresh appeal or fresh reply to the so-called notice, because it invariably so happens that some error creeps in if you do cut, paste or copy paste. Secondly, ensure that you are polite in your conversation. However much the officer may be rude in either in person or in the manner in which the so-called notice or the order is drafted, but we cannot afford to be caustic in our approach. We have to be very polite and make a polite reply to everything. Secondly, after you prepare your appeal or reply to the so-called notice, make an annexure, make an index of whatever is there, and then you annex it with your appeal or reply to the so-called notice. It is for your own convenience as well as the convenience of the concerned officer. Now I wish to show you one of the index of reply to a so-called notice or appeal, so to say. Okay. So this is how an index looks like. So as you can see, memorandum of appeal, then copy of so-called notice, copy of order in original, then whatever documents we are annexing, so everything is there. Then page number is done, so that whenever you wish to draw attention to any particular document, then you can easily do so. If the pagination is done properly and everything is marked and annexed by way of a particular identification, like annexure A, B, C, D, or annexure X, Y, Z, or annexure 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be. Okay. So what is a writ petition? So writ petition is to invoke the fundamental rights given to you and also the statutory rights. And one can approach the writ court not only for any unlawful action, but also if the concerned statutory authority does not act in accordance with the law. So for example, if suppose you are supposed to receive this refund within a particular period of time and the authority is not acting despite your representation, then in order to enforce your right, you can approach the writ court. Now, one of the question which is frequently asked is whether any time limit is there for approaching the writ court. The answer is no. There is no time limit for approaching a writ court, but ideally one should approach the writ court within the statutory period of limitation which is prescribed in the concerned act. Another thing which comes to the mind is the jurisdiction of the writ court. Now, the jurisdiction of the writ court, by I mean which writ courts needs to be approached. Ordinarily, one should approach the writ court within whose territorial jurisdiction the SAC is situated. But one can also approach the writ court where the cause of action has arose. So, in addition to your territorial jurisdiction, one can also approach the writ court where the cause of action has arose. All these aspects I have already discussed as to what circumstance one can approach the writ court at the stage of the so-called notice or against the order in original. Now, coming to one second, just give me a moment.
Hello, all participants. Sir will be joining us soon.
Okay, so the two of the aspects I've dealt with, one is the dealing with the so-called notice, dealing with the summon, dealing with the appeals, what are the circumstances one and under which one can approach the writ court. Now, another aspect of handling litigation is handling the search and seizure operation. Because you see, invariably it so happens that the proceeding, as I was discussing, starts either at the stage of issue of so-called notice, or it starts by way of a summon, or it starts by way of search and seizure operation. So one must know about how to handle the search and seizure also. So there are some of the aspects of the search and seizure which I wish to discuss. Number one point is that a search warrant, whether for the purpose of search or seizure or whether for inspection, because we must know that power of search, seizure and inspection can only be exercised by an officer not below the rank of the joint commissioner. So it is only the officer of the rank of joint commissioner and above who can authorize for inspection, search and seizure if he has the reason to believe that there is a suppression of transaction of supply or stock of goods or excess claim of ITC or any contravention of any provision of the act or rule in order to evade tax. Now, one of the aspects is that the inspection can be done only of the place of business, whether it is registered or unregistered. So inspection is a very soft version of the search and seizure, and it is akin to a survey under 133 of the Income Tax Act. So if the inspection is done, then all that can be done is to visit the premises. So it can be said that it is a mirror image of the audit, because in the audit, they come with the prior intimation, where a prior notice is given that from such and such date, an audit of your records, documents, etc. will be done. But inspection can happen out of the blue without any prior notice. But in both the scenario, all that can be done is to verify your records, documents, and everything at your place of business. But one thing is for sure, that audit can happen even if there is no reason to believe of any evasion of tax. So audit can be done with the purpose of just verifying the correctness of your turnover or ITC claimed. So in the audit proceeding, there is no suspicion or reason to suspect that there is any evasion of tax. It is a routine procedure. But in an inspection proceeding, there is a reason to believe that some tax evasion has taken place. But in both the cases, there is no coercive measure which is taken against you. So the reason to believe must be on the basis of some material. It cannot be that there is a fishing inquiry against you. If it is a fishing inquiry without any reason to believe, then it is liable to be set aside. But the proceeding of the search and seizure, they are done only if there is a reason to believe there are documents and records which are secreted in a place So search is more invasive than inspection. During the search operation, the officer can break open your premises, break open your almirah, break open your any device wherein it is suspected that any goods, accounts, documents, etc. are concealed, or where the access is denied. So if the inspection is taking place and the concerned SAC is not cooperating, or if the inspecting team has reason to believe that now they will have to do search and seizure, then they will have to have a further approval of the officer of the Joint Commissioner that they need to change the proceeding from inspection to a search and seizure proceeding. It cannot be that an officer has come for inspection only and he has shown you the search warrant or the warrant for inspection. So if he has come with a warrant to inspection, then he cannot break open or forcefully take away anything from your business premises. But if he has come with a search warrant for search and seizure, then he can do so. Second thing is that which often comes to mind is whether the sealing of the business premises is permitted. The answer is clear no, because sealing of the business premise means that it is a violation of your fundamental right to carry on your business. And if your business premises itself is sealed, then all business operations comes to a complete halt, and such a action of any authority is liable to be quashed and set aside. So while they are permitted to seize any document or goods or anything which they consider necessary to assess whether any tax evasion has taken place, but they cannot seal your business premises. So one must understand the difference between the two. Then there are some procedures which even the search party has to adopt and follow. They have to offer themselves for their body search by showing their identity and showing that they are not carrying anything which they can plant in your business premises to implicate you in something which they wish to. And it is also necessary that a lady officer should accompany the search team if the search team goes to the residence. Then the search cannot be done till late night. The taxpayer is entitled to call a medical practitioner if he is not well and have the facilities of having his meals at the normal time. Then taxpayer also has the right to send his children to go to school, but only after examination of their bags, school bags. Then if any statement is recorded, then each page of the statement must be signed by the person whose statement is recorded. And after the search proceeding is over, a panchnama should be prepared, which should clearly list what documents, goods, or anything else has been seized from your premises, and copy of such panchnama along with the annexure should be given to the SAC. And if those documents, goods, etc., which are seized, they are not relied upon, then they shall be returned within 30 days from the issue of the so-called notice. And in case of a seizure of the goods, if a notice is not issued within 6 months, then all goods should be returned after 6 months. Then another set of do's and don'ts, which I believe should be followed in the course of search and seizure proceeding, that is, one must cooperate, because again, these are all judicial proceedings. And if any statement or document or any secreted or destroyed, then it is in addition to the offense under the purview of the GST Act, they are all offense under the purview of the Indian Penal Code also. And in addition to the proceeding under the GST, a proceeding under the Indian Penal Code can also be initiated by the government department. And if after the search seizure is over and the documents are taken away, then you are entitled to seek a copy of the same. And again, if any statement is taken, then one must make a retraction of the statement as soon as possible. Then these are the judgments, some of which I have quoted. Sometimes it so happens that the goods are seized and ultimately such a seizure is declared to be illegal. And if that be the case, that your seizure of the goods is declared to be illegal, then if by the time that declaration comes, either by the court or by the adjudicating authority or the appellate authority, and by that time if the goods are destroyed or unusable, then the assessee is entitled to seek the money value of the goods which were illegally confiscated, along with a reasonable compensation as well as interest. Now, another aspect which I wish to deal with is the forceful recovery, which has become a norm rather than an exception in the course of search and seizure as well as summon proceeding. I think many of you must have observed that in the course of search proceeding or the summon proceeding, the officer under the threat of arrest forces the assessee to make payment of the tax without issue of the so-called notice. Now, this particular issue has gone to the high courts, and there are various high courts which have passed stricture against the department. And now there is a circular also of the CBIC itself, which says that there should not be any occasion to recover the tax in the course of search and seizure proceeding, because the law is that you are entitled to receive a so-called notice, and the so-called notice should be adjudicated before any recovery is made. But unfortunately, in many of the cases, it has so happened that the recovery is done instantly in the course of search proceeding or the summon proceeding itself. So there are several judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court and the High Courts which has held that while the government is entitled to take all possible legal steps to recover their tax, but they cannot be permitted to play dirty games with the citizen of the country to coerce them into making payment with the dispute. So if they are disputing, then they are very much entitled that the due process of law should be followed. A notice should be issued either under section 73 or 74. Adjudication should take place. On adjudication, if the demand is made, then one is entitled to go to the appellate authority on payment of the 10% of the disputed amount. And there are judgments of the Bombay High Court and other high courts which have held that if any forceful recovery is made, in the course of the search and seizure operation or the summon proceeding, then the department should forthwith refund it to the SSE. In fact, the Honorable Gujarat High Court went to the extent of saying that even if the SSE voluntary comes forward to make the payment in DRC 03, then also the department should advise them to file such DRC the next day after the end of the search proceeding. And in fact, there are judgments in the context of the earlier era also, wherever any such forceful recovery has been made, then the courts have come down very heavily upon the officers and directed the authorities to refund the such forceful recovery made. Now, regarding this evidentiary value of confessional statement, I have already stated. Then retraction of the statement, one must know that a retraction should be done as soon as possible, but neither the statement nor the retraction statement will have a value in the absence of a corroborative evidence. So one must weigh the value of the retraction statement as well as the confessional statement. Both have the similar value in the sense that they should be corroborated by a independent corroborative evidence. Now, another aspect to handle the litigation is cross-examination. It so happens, and particularly it is happening in the current time, when a lot of demand is made on the basis of the statement of a third party. Now, that third party may be your supplier, your customer, or anyone. So, the rule of law is, and this rule of law has emerged over a period of time, that it is necessary that if any statement is relied upon of a third party, that the benefit of cross-examination should be given. And there are so many judgments. For example, in this judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court in Andaman Timber Industries versus Commissioner of Central Excise, it was held that not allowing the SSE to cross-examine the witnesses by the adjudicating authority, though the statement of those witnesses were made the basis of the impugned order, is a serious flaw which makes the order nullity in as much as it amounted to violation of principle of natural justice, because of which the SSE was adversely affected. So there are so many judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court which says that if the cross-examination is not given, the entire proceeding is liable to be set aside, and therefore, as soon as any so-cause notice is received or any proceeding is initiated on the basis of a statement of a third party, then one must write a letter and seek a cross-examination. Because if you seek the cross-examination and ultimately such a cross-examination is not given to you, then the entire proceeding is liable to be set aside on that ground alone without looking into the other merit of the case. So, friends, with this, I conclude my today's session, and I'll be very happy to take any questions relating to today's talk. Thank you very much.
I request to all users, if you have any questions, you can write in the chat box. Sir, are you able to watch the query?
Yes.
Chat box?
Okay, I'm taking it one by one. Advocate SS Loni is asking what is the remedy for section 16.4. You see, section 16.4, I believe the only remedy is to approach the High Court, because there are circular which says that if the return is filed beyond the timeline as it is prescribed in section 16.4, then it is time barred. So, in fact, I have challenged this particular section 16.4 interpretation, which is adopted by the department before various high courts, that is Gujarat High Court, Bombay High Court, and Calcutta High Court. And wherever you are, instead of replying to such a SOCOS, or even if it is a pre-SOCOS stage, if the demand is being raised under section 16.4, then you should approach the High Court. And one of the, you see, the first and foremost, my interpretation is that section 16.4 says that you are not entitled to take the credit beyond the timeline prescribed in section 16.4. But it does not say that if you file the return with a delay, then also your credit becomes time barred. So it is relating to the taking of the credit in your books of accounts. So you must ensure that if your books of accounts are in order, you have taken the credit within the time limit prescribed in section 16.4 in your books of accounts, then in my opinion, the ITC is admissible. And I think we can rely upon also the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Union of India versus Airtel Limited, which was in the context of whether if one could not take the credit on the basis of the GSTR 2A, then one is entitled to revise GSTR 3B. So even though Honorable Supreme Court dismissed that particular writ petition, what is favorable for the purpose of dealing with the litigation under section 16.4 is that it says that you take the credit on the basis of your books of accounts. The primary material is your books of accounts and not the portal. Now, Mr. Jayant Kumar Jain is saying one of my client without any reason during survey made to file GSTR 03, can I file a litigation and ask for refund of the same? Yes, certainly, but you have to approach the High Court, because, or what you can do is that you write a letter, rely upon the various judgments which have been laid down, and also the circular of the department itself, requesting for a refund and issue of a SOCOS notice. And if they do not do so, you write several reminders, and after all these fails, you should approach the High Court. Mr. Parth Jatania is asking, in case of search and seizure, should the search be completed in one time or summons to issued for search done on day-to-day basis? See, I'm not very clear about what you are asking, but as I can comprehend, what you mean to ask is whether the search has to be completed within a day or it can extend over a period of several days. There is no restriction in the law to continue search operation for several days, although there should be a human approach in a search proceeding also, meaning thereby that should be allowed reasonable time to do your day-to-day activities, including your time to sleep. But during the rest of the time, the search proceeding can continue, and the summon proceeding can be taken in the course of the search proceeding and also after the search proceeding is concluded. Is there any time limit to pass the appellate order? So let us have a look at section 107, which deals with the filing of the appeal. It says, if you look at the section, subsection 13, it says that the appellate authority shall, where it is possible to do so, hear and decide every appeal within a period of 1 year from the date on which it is filed. So from the language, it appears that there is a guidance to the appellate authority. It is not a mandatory section. It says that wherever it is possible, the hearing should be concluded within a period of 1 year and the appeal should be decided within a period of 1 year. So if it is not being done since 2018, then you should write a letter to the appellate authority citing section 107 subsection 13 that you please decide, because it is more than 3 years that my appeal is pending, sorry, 5 years that the appeal is pending. And as per the law, it should have been decided within 1 year. But still, if he is not concluding the appeal or not passing any order, then you should approach the writ court. Then Mr. Arpit Mehta is asking, what is the remedy if the RCM is paid after due date of September return, and whether we can claim ITC for RCM? So section 16, subsection 4. One second. Okay, let us have a look at section 16.4. What does it say? A registered person shall not be entitled to take input tax credit in respect of any invoice or debit note for supply of goods or services or both after the 30th day of November following the end of the financial year to which such invoice or debit note pertain, or furnishing of the relevant annual return, whichever is earlier, provided that the registered person shall be entitled to take input tax credit after the due date of furnishing of the return under section 39 till the due date of furnishing. Sorry, this is not relevant. So what it says is that you are entitled to take input tax credit in respect of any invoice or debit note following the end of the assessment year up to 30th day of November. With respect to RCM also, I believe that you'll have to follow section 16.4 in the sense that it should follow the invoice in relation to which you are making payment of the RCM. And if you are making payment after the due date, then you will not be entitled to ITC, in my opinion. But one can take another view also, in the sense that you can raise a self-invoice on payment of RCM simultaneously with payment of the tax, and accordingly take the benefit of input tax credit. Can the search be done at director's home when the search is going on for the company? Yes, it can be done. Can officers have powers to threat or beat anybody during the investigation? Not at all. No coercive measures in any manner, whether in terms of threatening or beating, can be done in the course of investigation. Then Mr. Mehta is asking, notice regarding difference in 3B and 2A, whether the same is challengeable and what is the validity of such so-called notice. So first of all, if you have any difference in 3B and 2A, then you should explain as to what is the reason of difference. It may be so that your supplier has not uploaded his 3B return or 2A return, but GSTR 1 return. So that cannot be the basis to deny you the benefit. But if he has not paid the tax, then the only recourse is to approach the High Court by challenging section 16.2, subsection C, subclause C. Now, Advocate Soumya Jain is asking, order was passed by the GST authority for rejection of GST refund and SSC filed PMT 03. Is there any time limit for department for recredit the amount in the credit ledger? Can we file a writ to High Court if the GST authority is not recrediting GST refund? Certainly, you should file a writ if the GST reporting authority is not responding. Sir, we have salary recovery from employee in various recovery, that is food, transportation, uniforms and safety and two-wheelers parking SCTC. Whether GST is applicable or not, this is purely employer to employee. No, if you are recovering from salary for any services with respect to food or transportation or uniform, then even if it is an employer-employee relationship, but the fact of the matter is that such an activity, if it is liable to tax, then the tax GST should be paid. And you cannot take the shelter of the employer-employee relations in such a scenario. We have seen that in ISN 01, some specific inquiry about any party is mentioned, but they are investigating as entire. Is it right? You see, whenever they are investigating, then it is not necessary that they have to limit their inquiry to INS 01. If they have suspicion to expand the scope of the inquiry, then they can certainly do it. Our employee retirement company will give above 50,000. GST is applicable or not? I am not able to understand the meaning of this question. Please repost it in detail. CA Spurs Mittal is asking, our client has received a notice demanding tax under RCM for accounting charges paid during financial year 2018-17. Client has appointed a full-time accountant for doing his bookkeeping work and had paid charges to him in the nature of salary. Certainly not. Accounting charges, unless they are paid to an independent professional, they are not covered under RCM. Whatever is covered under RCM, only that demand can be made under RCM and not for accounting charges paid to an accountant kept on a full-time salaried basis. One of my client was not available during the visit of the department during the verification. Then he appeared and explained, but department has suspended his registration retrospectively, stating that you have purchased from non-existent supplier. What is the remedy? You see, for verification, there was an amendment in Rule 24 with effect from 2020, which stated that prior to the physical verification, a notice should be given. So physical verification cannot be done without a proper notice to the concerned SEC. And if any verification has been done without any such notice to the SEC, then such a proceeding is totally unlawful, and therefore accordingly you should deal with this, citing Rule 24. And there are several judgments of the Delhi High Court and other High Court which says that unless a physical verification is done in the presence of the concerned SEC, such a physical verification has no value in the eye of law. Now, Mr. Tanaji is asking, input tax credit for financial year 17-18 has been claimed in 18-19 within the due date in GSTR 3B. In GSTR 9, not shown in column. No, if suppose in the annual return some error has been committed, that cannot be the reason to deny input tax credit, and you should accordingly file a reply stating that nothing is provided in section 16 subsection 2 that if there is any error in the filing of the annual return, that can be reason to the deny of the input tax credit. Because whether allowing the input tax credit or not allowing the input tax credit, they have to follow section 16 as well as section 17. And nothing is provided in either section 16 or 17, that ITC will be denied if there is an error in annual return. And then Mr. Rakesh Kumar Kapra is asking, refund issued by the department to oil industry under inverted duty structure is denied with levy of interest. What is the legal position? You see, I have to understand the fact of this matter ad hoc. I cannot give any opinion without understanding the proper facts of the case. I am giving my email ID in the chat box. So those queries which I have not been able to respond, you may directly contact me. So I will try to answer. Because some of the queries are not very clear. Now Soumya Jain is asking, can GST department issue section 35 under section 61 of the scrutiny of return? As per my knowledge, 35 used for GST audit and section 16 is different. Again, I am not able to understand this question. Is there any time limit to pass an order after filing of the reply to show cause notice? If you refer to section 73, they have to pass an order within 3 years. So the passing of the order time is the same as the limitation period prescribed in the law. So I think with this, we should conclude today's session. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir. Sir, very great session with you, sir. Now I came to the thank you speech. For thank you speech. Hello. It was a
Yes.
knowledgeable webinar on handling GST summons, SCNs, and all litigation aspects. Thank you all participants for joining. Wonderful listening to the Vinay sir. We deeply thank Vinay sir for sharing his valuable time for the professionals. GST Corner is very grateful for you, sir. We are hoping to associate you for the another webinar. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we end the meeting, sir?
Yes.
Okay, sir.